Welcome to the Sedona Soul Sister Show, down-to-earth discussions on metaphysics, paranormal, and spiritual topics.
And the Sedona Soul Sisters are myself, Rosalind Reynolds, my business partner, Ivory Lanou, and our happy sweet mate, Terry Ann Vessel. We have offices here in Sedona where we see clients from all over the world all the time.
Day, night, weekends.
So today's topic is grounding and balancing. And if you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat box and we'll answer them while we're live. Otherwise, we can come back later and catch up, right?
Mm-hmm. I think they can figure out how to email us.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one that's been coming up. As we've said before, our topics for the show tend to be what the three of us see are experiencing more clients coming in with that issue. And we decide, okay, there must be a lot of people who need to know about this. And it's something that everybody has to think about and consciously work on a daily basis, whether even if you're already grounded and balanced, if you want to stay that way.
It's true.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing that we've talked about, and I hear from a lot of my clients, is how difficult it is to stay grounded and balanced now as compared to, a decade ago. And that's just because the energies are all shifting, the frequencies are shifting, the Earth's energy has changed tremendously in the last decade. So it's really important to keep ourselves in a place where we're handling all that and we're still able to help people and do our work. So,
because what happens if you're not grounded?
Yeah.
You fly off like a helium balloon that somebody's letting the air out of. There you go. Bye.
It's like, ooh, where's my brain lately?
When you meet people who are really spiritually connected but can't seem to function in the real world, they are not quite with it on paying attention. They can't be in a place at a certain time. They seem to feel a little bit untethered and unreliable. They're very ungrounded people. That's what's going on. And the more spiritual you get, I think the higher you go, the further you go on your journey, the more you have to be conscious of that.
Yes.
And I think realistically, we have to acknowledge that that's because, our physical presence and our physical body is here. And, there's a lot of requirements to be functional here. You have to be where you need to be, doing what you're expected to be doing at any given time. And our spirit is not kind of like stuck in this dimensional field. So it sounds kind of eerie. And, I've had discussions with clients where they absolutely just felt like they were flipping out. And in a way, I think that's accurate because when you're not able to keep yourself grounded and have one foot on this side and one foot able to be balancing what's going on with you spiritually, it really creates a lot of emotional disturbance.
I always describe it so when you work with a lot of clients, right, you're pretty much like out in the ethers all day. And then it's really so important for us to pull ourselves back into our body.
Especially
and really,
before you get the car and drive.
Yes, because you're like out there and it's like, ooh, right? Especially if you had a really, really busy day. So you know what I like to do? There's a mudra that I like, and it's for grounding. And when I can't like specifically sit there and go up and go down, I use this mudra and I put my fingers in my thighs like this and I just pull myself back into my body. And it's just really quick and instantaneous, so it's really helpful.
For me, I think a lot of it is like this book came out, Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now. And then a lot of other people wrote books about that. I really think the timing is not a coincidence of those books coming out before what's going on in the world right now, the chaos, the uproar, the fear. A big part of the secret of grounding and balancing is living in the moment, being in the moment. And like Terry Ann's saying, let's say if I had done 6 readings, 7 readings in a day, and they were really intense, I've spent a good part of my day reading people's energetic field or communicating with spirits and angels. I'm not totally in my body. So just taking a few minutes to just close your eyes or for me, it's actually, I need to open my eyes because I really need to see what's around me. I just need to feel my human body. I need to feel my feet on the floor, feel everything, just in my body at that moment. And then that pulls me back in to that field. But it is a lot about the here and now. So I think that if you haven't read anything about that, it's not as simple as it sounds. There's reasons why there's whole books on that. So sometimes the simplest ideas are the most difficult to master.
I think another thing that we have to realize too is, and you were talking about being able to create that reconnection with your physical body in a moment or a few moments. Really important to acknowledge to yourself that you do need to, once you've done that, still spend a few minutes making sure that you're totally back where you need to be.
And you can feel the difference.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can definitely feel it.
So,
And there's other times you need to do that. I don't want to create an impression that this is for people who are doing readings professionally. No. One of the times that it's most needed is if you are personally being affected in some way by the fear and chaos around us in the country and the world right now. Somebody's saying something, maybe it's a political thought that's very against your own political beliefs. Maybe it's something that feels very divisive for the world or for certain peoples, and it's bothering you. Just in that very moment, you need to balance and ground again, because what you don't want to do is let loose of your body and go with this wave of emotion that would cause you to respond in kind. That just there's a perpetual motion machine gets put in place where fear and chaos breeds fear and chaos. So you can stop it on your end because you're the only person you can control, and stop that process, at least in that interaction.
Yeah.
and I think another thing to realize is, for me at least, I have to have my daily practices in place.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this before. I have to spend a few moments of every morning just getting myself sort of like reacclimated, but grounded, centered, balanced, and saying my prayers and affirmations and doing a breathing process that supports me being very present. And we were laughing earlier today because sometimes we all have those moments where our energy gets a little scattered. Whatever is creating that within us can be internal or external, but when that's happening, I mean, you got to get on top of that. So that clearing and balancing practice brings you right back centered and calm. And for me, it usually does really involve breath work too. I mean, I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes and I'm feeling very disconnected from this dimensional field. So I kind of know I've been out cruising around or connecting with other dimensional fields and beings and things. And I immediately will go into my breath work practice to bring myself back. So we all develop our tools for this. And what we're kind of talking about is just the tools that work for you.
Yeah, and be
Trying
aware,
different
because
things.
as a society, right, we're all so focused on what's next. What do I got to do later? What do I got to do tomorrow? I have this going on, that. And that sort of, again, creates that chaos in your life. And you can feel it. People really do feel, they know when they're ungrounded.
Yeah.
Whether they can acknowledge it or understand what it is, they know. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got so much on my mind. Like, they'll say things like that. And it's like, okay, so that's when you need to focus in.
I'm so glad you brought up breath work, Roz, because when you think about it, just like you were saying, Terry Ann, you know when you're getting ungrounded. And I think one of the ways is you start to have trouble breathing, like you're hyperventilating a little bit, shortness of breath. So it comes back to the breath, even as a sign that you're going into that state. So something I learned, I've done this with a lot of clients, when I worked in a psychiatric hospital, one of my jobs, every time somebody would need to be de-escalated, they call it. My job was to talk to them. I was good at talking to them. So I would have them take these deep breaths where you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, 10 of those. And no matter how upset or angry or spun out somebody is, it just brings them right back into their body. They're calm. You can talk to them. I've continued to utilize that for myself in life. I do it myself and for clients because it works. So there's many methods out there you can use for breath work that is calming, centering, grounding. I do think that's really one of the cornerstones of that practice.
I agree. And I think one of the things that people begin to realize when they start to utilize that practice is that it it's also a very strong motivator because you start to feel yourself calming, reconnecting. It's a strong motivator to develop it as a resource, a tool that you use all the time. It's really important. So I think another thing you're mentioning, like all of the turmoil in the world right now, just the energies themselves, the process that people are going through with the awakening. People are realizing things they've never realized before. They're seeing things that they never expected, and they're having deep and intense realizations about their soul and their soul's purpose in relation to all this. So, this is an even more important motivator to kind of keep yourself in a calm and balanced space.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some long-term benefits with that. The more you do this, not only will you feel better in the moment, but one thing I've noticed for myself with consciously working on this is that when something difficult happens in my life that before I would have been all upset and hyperventilating and losing sleep over, I feel a little annoyance to my day. It's kind of, oh, it's too bad that that happened, but I feel calm. Pretty much. It's weird. I mean, even at the time, like recently, there's something happened with the front end of my car. Roz was with me and it wasn't pretty. Something yanked the front end of my car off. So, and I'm just like, well, all right. And we taped it on. And Roz and I went to lunch and had a nice lunch. And before, let's say 3-4 years ago, maybe more, I would have been crying, I'm sure, in shock and all upset. And it's like, does it change the situation? No. So one thing I don't want to forget to mention too is meditation. We're going to talk about a lot of these practices on many different shows because you're going to notice a big overlap. Breath work's good for a lot of things. Meditation's good for a lot of things. They just both happen to be great for grounding and balancing as well. So even if you think you're not good at it, remember that intrusive thoughts when you're meditating is part of the meditation. And the more you practice it, the less intrusive thoughts you have. So there's guided meditations for free on YouTube that are really good with awesome video that you can look at. And it kind of helps you get into that meditative state a little easier than trying it on your own. Something to think about.
I think another thing, just in exploring other options that work for people, I find that if I have become completely unbalanced and all of my tools are not working, and that does happen, I can also listen to certain tonal frequencies like the solfeggio frequencies. Those for me work very quickly to help me just take it down a notch and be able to rebalance and restore my inner calm and clear myself.
Yeah.
So have to find the tool that works for you.
For some people too, it can be even just as easy as going outside.
Oh,
Being
yes.
outside, especially if you're
I'm
cooped
good.
up in
Yes.
an office all day.
Yes.
The way I used to be, I would just like go outside and just finally get some breath and some fresh air into my lungs and see nature around me. Very grounding.
Which leads right into something very important, which is literal earthing, which is where you take your shoes off and you spend 30 minutes a day with your feet on soil or grass. They say it works just as well on concrete. I do not feel it through concrete like I do through soil and grass. So you'd spend 30 minutes with your feet connecting to the literal energy of the earth and just recharging yourself. And it's pretty amazing. Another thing, my friend and I, we've invented watering, where we go to our favorite place here in Sedona and we sit on a long rock over Oak Creek and spend our feet in the creek water when it's not freezing cold for half an hour. And we find that actually is really great.
Yeah, that's
So,
wonderful.
yeah. So either of those, I mean, you can sit outside with a book and just have your feet on the ground. You can sit outside and visit with your family. You can sit outside and have a picnic while you're earthing. But it's really important to do that.
And that actually, in addition to the spiritual and emotional shifts that are going on, that from the standpoint of physics, that offers you something very powerful, as well as going to the ocean, because the earth has a tremendous number of negative ions. Our body has positive ions, free radicals, and those are all stress related, etc. So when you're earthing the soles of your feet, which are one of the most amazing parts of your body for healing, because anybody who knows anything about reflexology or the skin on your feet, you're actually absorbing those ions. Same thing when you go to the beach. And of course, I grew up at the beach, right by the beach. So if I needed to just totally chill, calm down, reconnect, rebalance, I would be at the ocean with my feet in the sand and just smelling, the waves,
For me,
the mist. So,
definitely.
I mean, I think we all have our sources to find that calming touchstone that works the best. Back to nature, I think, for a lot of people is huge.
Yeah.
And everybody has their specific connection to nature. Like Roz was talking about the ocean. I know I'm totally an ocean person too, but I'm also a mountain person. So wherever it is, if you're a desert person, you need more time at the desert. If you're a mountain person, you need to get up in the mountains. Whatever it is, there is an energetic connection to the energy of that place and or those places that needs to be honored. And it does something for the energy, your personal auric field to be there, something positive.
So, all of these things are things that we wanted to mention to you today. And I think it's helpful to, because once you start getting ungrounded and you're rattled, you kind of forget some of these solutions that you could have yourself. I think it's really good to create kind of a list for
I'm a
yourself
big
of
proponent of that.
solutions. Yeah, I'm a list
And
maker,
carry it in
of
your
course.
carry it in your wallet, pull it out. Absolutely, because when you're in it, you can't think of good solutions.
Yeah, you getting into the really ungrounded. I mean, you're going into a format of brain fog where you're just not processing stuff, and your thoughts become very jumbled, and you start to lose your ability to take these tools and work with them. So for those of you who experience this when you're in settings, for example, I can give a classic setting. I actually have tremendous difficulty going into department stores. There's a lot of energy in there, the people energy. There's electrical energy from the wiring. There's EMF, all the computers. It just can be overwhelming to me. So, in addition to maybe taking a few minutes before I go in and kind of getting myself grounded for that, one thing that I do that's an additional help for me is I carry a small piece of orgonite. Well, I wear orgonite all the time, but I carry a small piece of orgonite because my hands, I do a lot of healing work and psychometry. So my right hand especially is super sensitive. And I can put one of these little pieces in my hand and make it all the way through the entire store without having to go, okay, I have to go now. I gotta go. I gotta get outside.
Have you ever noticed that the energy of the people who made the clothing in a department store can be very disturbing to your energetic field?
Yes. when you walk by that area.
Yeah, you
Mhm.
can tell like they were making clothes in maybe unsafe, very unhappy, overworked conditions, and it sticks to the clothes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of things that can be affecting you as a sensitive person, and it doesn't really matter why it's happening. What matters is you have your little tool. And I love Liz. Roz's idea of giving you a new name, Roz, to carry around a list of 3 to 4 things you can do to calm yourself, to balance yourself quickly. I actually use that technique with a lot of different things with clients because of that whole thing of when you're in your worst frame of mind, you're not creative. Your memory's not, you're not able to pull it up. You're like, no, you need to do something, but what is it? Maybe somebody won't be around who knows what to do. So keep a little, like a business size card thing in your wallet that you can carry around with you. It's very effective.
I agree. And I think that we each have to, it's funny because the three of us always talk about, you know, we can tune in on things and tell you things that would be of benefit to you, but you have to do the work. I mean, we can't fix it for you.
Right. We
So
just talked about this morning.
yeah, we were,
Deja vu.
because it's really important to realize that it's crucial that you take your control, that you take your power that you have within yourself and use these tools, whichever works most effectively for you, to get yourself to the place where you know you have achieved what I think of as perfect balance,
Mhm.
able to function, with no matter what's going on around you. That's the goal. And I think when we utilize these tools effectively, that goal is very achievable. So,
Sometimes grounding yourself in an especially chaotic environment, you might find yourself at a gathering that you need to be there because there's family or friends or something going on and you're supposed to be there. You need to be there. Or you'll say you're not willing to leave. Sometimes that self preservation involves going into a light trance state. Will get you through, will put you, it kind of puts this bubble around you where all the chaos can't touch me. I'm in my little island. You're just sitting
my
here.
bubble.
You're in a little bubble of this light trance state where people can come talk to you and it'll startle you a little bit, but you're able to not be affected negatively by all the people's around you, especially if their energy isn't always very great. So it's just sort of like a temporary shelter of energy for you to surround yourself with till you could be out of that situation. If you
I
get
call
really
that my
brave, you just leave.
white light bubble.
Yeah, I mean, it
Put
can be
myself in the white light
whatever you
bubble.
want to visualize it to be, but it really is just imagining there's like a whole different atmosphere around you, and it works. It works really well.
So when that person comes up to you and is like,
Yeah, they
You're
do. They'll
like-
come up and they're going, "Are you okay? Are you having a good time?" And I'd be like, "What? What?" You know, 'cause I was just having myself a little visualization.
Well, I think another thing for people to think about in relation to this is the three of us are all moms. Terry Ann still has a very young child, but Ivory and our kids are grown. And if you can teach this to your children when they're young, and they can develop their own tools to work with this, it's a staggering difference
Part of
in
changing
how
the
they
planet.
handle things. It really is. And it's incredibly important for you to realize that the patterns that, we help our children create for themselves are the things that are going to determine the outcome of this crazy world that we're in at this point.
We really don't have much influence over. We can never really change an adult, when we can influence children up to a certain age tremendously, and then somewhat after that age. Better take advantage of that.
Yeah, and just to, so that they can develop their own tools
Mm-hmm.
and their own patterns as adults. And I can remember specifically one of my kids with just kind of a really high-strung personality and would just start to spiral out of control. And I was certainly like that when I was a kid, and just being able to say, okay, we're just going to sit down now. We're going to take a time out, a little break. We're going to relax. Let's take some deep breaths. So creating those tools, helping your kids create those tools for themselves.
Mhm.
The result of that is they pass it on, of course, to their own kids, but they also, their development of their skills and abilities has a positive effect on everybody that they touch
It fits
in
in
their
with
life.
what we call coping skills. And unfortunately, I've often said, I don't understand why grade schools and junior highs aren't teaching coping skills, because there seems to be this belief that every child is going to become an adult and magically have great coping skills, and most people don't. So
Mhm.
coping skills is the tools that you use to cope with what happens to you in life. And so if you never really learn any, you're just winging it as you go. And those are the people who respond in anger, who turn and blame other people. A lot of kind of toxic things that they do. And this, they're not being bad people or mean. That's just worked for them in childhood. They kept doing it. Nobody ever taught them anything else.
Mhm.
So this is huge. So kids can grow up and be better functioning adults, better spouses, better parents. That's how we change the world for the positive, with a little influence we each have on our little circle.
I agree. I think it speaks very highly. I've read a lot recently that in schools, I don't know if that's so much here in the US, but I know in other countries, they're actually teaching kids meditation.
And they teach kindness.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they teach,
It's interesting. Ethics.
yeah, and self balance in a way
Mhm.
by putting themselves into a more relaxed state using meditation.
Yes.
We'll
So-
start a school.
Yes.
Sedona Solstice.
In our spare time.
School.
Yeah. Between all of our events and clients.
It'll be a self-schooled study.
The thing about all of these things is that they're simple things.
Mhm.
And they're not, they're not complicated. They're not overwhelming. It's really just a process to develop what really works for you.
So you're going to
Yeah.
try some things and you're going to forget, you're going to make mistakes, you're going to respond in your old way, and then you're going to go, oh yeah, I could have done this. So each time you're a little bit better, and until pretty soon, most of the time, it's really a natural response to just think this way, to act a certain way that's more mindful and more calming for yourself and others. It'll just be natural. You won't have to try so hard. The longer you work it, the less hard it is.
Good stuff. So give us, for those of you who have joined us, or I have some friends who've contacted me and said, we're not able to watch at 4:00 in the afternoon, but we're watching at other times. So give us a little feedback on some of the things that you use, some of the tools you have employed to calm yourself and to clear and balance your energy field. And always remember that, there's a grid that runs down the center of our body, and it kind of goes out in a sphere around us. That's our auric field. So we're not only, when we're doing this clearing and balancing for ourselves, we're not only impacting ourselves, but our energy field is touching other people,
Mhm.
and they feel that. And so we're helping ourselves, but we're helping a lot of other people at the same time.
And if you're watching this later, downloaded, the best place to leave us feedback or ask a question is on our Facebook page, where you see the post that was posted earlier today saying today's the topic of today's show, and it has the show picture on it. Leave a comment there so that everybody who's interested in that show topic can see what you asked and what we answered, and it can be a benefit for others as well.
Mhm.
It's really helpful to us. We'll
I think
find you
if-
faster.
I think the collective consciousness, of all of us right now, will benefit by us all sharing our tools that we use and our methods that we've developed for ourselves and that, we share.
I know there's a lot of people
others.
who are hungry They want to know a different way to think and act and feel. And that's one of the things we're seeing is people going, what can I do? I feel like I'm untethered. I'm just flying loose out there. We don't have any problem sharing techniques with you. I mean, these are not state secrets. These are things we think that as many people as possible needs to know. Pass it on to your family and friends. Share it.
Yeah.
Let's calm this world down.
It's all good things.
Wrap it up.
Okay. That's you, Missy.
So we'd like to thank you for joining us today on the Sedona Soul Sisters show. The three of us do have our information on our website. If you have any questions about the things we do, interest in learning how you could work with those gifts that you have, please go to sedonasoulsisters.com.
And tune in next week. Our topic will be called to serve. And if I remember correctly, this has been a couple of weeks since we talked about this. That's about called to fulfill a mission.
Yeah.
Okay. So we hope that you have a great enlightening week. And we'll see you next week.
And enjoy.
And we're out.
That's so hot.